All right, it's 11:01 on Monday, June 8th, and we will call the Finance Committee meeting to order. Roll call, White here.
Laskowitz here.
Kelly here.
House in here.
Warfel here.
All right. Can I get a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
By Kelly, second by Laskowitz. All those in favor?
Aye.
And then, did everybody get a chance to look through the meeting minutes from last time?
I did, and when I look at it at the very end, hold on, I'm gonna give you a line. Let's see, I'm on page 4 and line 16. Motion to adjourn was made by Housen. I wasn't there at the end of the meeting. I left early, so it wouldn't have been me. So maybe Laskowitz made it and somebody else seconded, I don't know.
I'll double check.
Okay.
Yeah, good call. Did anybody else notice any other corrections? I didn't have any. If not, can I get a motion to approve the meeting minutes from May 21st, 2026?
So moved.
Motion by Laskowitz.
Well, I'll move as amended.
Oh, as amended, thank you.
I'm sorry, I shouldn't ask this after you just said it, but which line was the change?
Did you-
Or-
Page
The
4,
motion
line
to
16.
adjourn.
Oh, there. Okay. Okay. So I second Louise's motion to approve
I
the
wasn't there
minutes.
to make a
Yeah.
motion. I left the meeting early.
Oh, and it says you,
It said that I made the motion.
Okay.
So
somebody did.
unless my avatar was here, and I don't think so.
So I have a motion on the table to approve as amended by Housen,
Second.
second by Laskowitz. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. Comments, correspondence, and concerns from the public. I didn't see anything come in for the packet.
There wasn't.
There was none, okay. And,
Julie, can you let me in?
I just
Never mind. I'm there. I'm good. Thank you. Thank you.
all right, and I don't think there's anybody online. If there is, speak up now.
Nobody's raising their hands.
Okay. All right, then we'll move right into 6A, presentation from ClearGov Budgeting and Reporting Solutions.
All right, well, perfect. Well, we have a presentation here from ClearGov, and I don't want to take up too much of the time, but if you just wanted to introduce yourself, a little bit about your background, and then jump in, feel free.
Sure. Can y'all hear me okay?
Yeah, thank
Okay.
you.
Awesome. Yeah, so my name's Kristen. I'm from ClearGov. We make budget and reporting and transparency software. I can share my screen. You should have a packet with this presentation in there, but okay.
Kristen, this is Mike Laskowitz. Are you filling in for our account manager?
Nope.
You are. our
It's
account
me.
manager.
Yep.
There was another face and name on the deck.
There was?
I thought there was a gentleman's picture, either in this version or last week.
That's Cassell.
For the
It's a
utility.
different.
Okay, my apologies.
No,
Kristen,
no worries.
did you get a chance to read our minutes or hear our discussion in the last meeting to understand what our questions were?
I didn't get a chance to hear it, but I did talk to Vlad and Ben about it, and I changed kind of the presentation to answer your questions.
Did you lower the price?
Yes, actually a little. And
Okay.
I added some more tools, so yes. Okay, can y'all see request to implement ClearGov?
Yep.
Okay. Okay, yeah. So ClearGov, we were started in 2015. We specialize exclusively in budgeting, financial planning, capital planning, and public financial reporting software for local governments. My goal tonight is to walk through kind of why Sister Bay began evaluating budgeting modernization tools, how other Wisconsin communities are using ClearGov, what their proposed implementation approach could look like, and then 2 different investment options kind of currently under consideration. So from conversations with Vlad and Ben, a few consistent themes came up around the current budgeting process. Right now, a lot of the process relies heavily on spreadsheets, manual consolidation, and staff-driven workflows, which creates challenges around things like version control, broken formulas, onboarding, institutional knowledge retention, and then committee visibility during budget season. At the same time, Sister Bay's capital planning needs kind of continue to grow, especially around infrastructure, facilities, trails, marina improvements, and long-term planning. So this evaluation really started around sustainability, efficiency, and modernization of the overall budgeting process. The focus here is definitely not changing accounting systems or replacing Cassell, which is y'all's current accounting system. Instead, the goal is to improve the budgeting, planning, collaboration, and presentation side of the process. Some of the major objectives we discussed included reducing spreadsheet dependency, improving documentation and continuity, simplifying onboarding as staff roles evolve, improving finance committee visibility, and then modernizing the village's long-term budgeting workflows. So when committees evaluate budgeting modernization projects like this, the return on investment is usually less about reducing headcount and more about reducing the manual work that you're doing right now, improving accuracy, reducing operational risk, and creating a more sustainable process over time. For example, wage and benefit assumptions can be updated globally instead of manually across spreadsheets. Recalculations happen instantly during committee review, and the process becomes much less dependent on one person maintaining institutional knowledge. One question that
This is Mike Glasswoods again. I guess just a couple of comments here. You know, I'd be interested in other members of the committee's opinion, but I have the sense that when we talked about this, you kind of hit on it, but maybe not as directly as I would like to. Why are we evaluating this? I really think it's about productivity and quality, and you've kind of made those points. I don't like the soft approach to productivity. I'm curious, with the advent of AI and your incorporation of it into your tool, do you think that's going to change where this investment will be able to reduce staff and bring down costs?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think that we have several AI kind of functionality within the tools, and where a lot of that is seen is things like pointing out where costs can be reduced, showing trends over time of costs, like kind of where costs are going and what to look out for. And then also allowing, taking away a lot of the manual work that comes from, or actually let me, also especially when it comes to salaries and benefits, things like being able to do more accurate kind of forecasting for future kind of salaries and benefits. So for example, like let's say you're I don't know, you're building a new library that opens in FY 29, being able to really kind of down to the dollar and cent, being able to know exactly how much you're going to need to budget for, and so that you can start planning early, and so that costs don't end up kind of catching up to you at the when it actually happens. I would say that in terms of like headcount, you have a pretty lean finance team right now. So I'm hesitant to say this would really be, like I would be very hesitant to say this would allow you to kind of cut costs in terms of operationally, in terms of like personnel. I think this is more about.
So let me, it was kind of a long answer. I appreciate that.
Mhm.
if we spend $25,000 a year, $100,000 in 4 years to do this, what will the savings be? How will we cover that cost without raising taxes?
Yeah, well, so the saving, so there'll be, and I actually, I think I talk about this in a few,
I can wait if you're gonna cover it. I can
yeah,
wait.
I think I'm talking about this in a few slides. Let me see where it is. Um,
Could we just go slide to slide instead of jumping around?
yeah, sure.
Maybe that's just in the order that,
Yeah, well,
is that
let's let,
possible?
yeah, Kristen, why don't you finish doing your slides and stuff, and then we'll kind of do the
Yeah.
questions towards the end, yeah.
Great.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds good. Okay, so where was I? So, I think this is where I was. So, again, kind of what stood out to me about Sister Bay specifically is that y'all have a pretty lean organization with active planning needs. So that combination kind of makes operational efficiency especially important. There's also a strong focus on modernization and creating sustainable processes that continue working well as staffing and leadership evolves over time. So that we work with 42 different communities in Wisconsin, over 2,000 in the United States. But there are 42 communities in Wisconsin using ClearGov for budgeting, planning, and public reporting initiatives. These are just a few examples. Several of these are similar in size or operational structure to Sister Bay, and a number of them are also using Cassell, including Whitefish Bay, Wanakee, and Cottage Grove. These communities also had similar modernization goals and budgeting workflows. So I'm just going to go through each of the modules that we're looking at and kind of what the ROI would be and how it would help kind of save time and make things more efficient. The first one is the operational budgeting module. This module would replace spreadsheet-driven budget preparations with one centralized platform. Departments would be able to submit requests, notes, and attachments directly into the system. And then the leadership and the finance committee can review real-time dashboards, fund level information, department level details, and expenditure summaries. So one important benefit to this is consistency. It creates a repeatable annual budgeting process that becomes less dependent on manual spreadsheet management. And, I'm sure that y'all kind of know the problems that can come with building a multi-million-dollar budget in a spreadsheet. There's a lot of room for error. You accidentally miskey something. It's not especially what word am I looking for? Oh my gosh, I need some more coffee. Like safe, not safe isn't the right word, but um
There's more
yeah,
room for error.
what's that?
There's probably more room for error.
Right, yeah, exactly. So this would really help, take everything out of Excel and into the cloud. This next one is probably where a lot of the ROI would occur, the personnel budgeting module. Personnel budgeting is often one of the most manual and time-consuming parts of the annual process. So this module handles wages, benefits, vacancies, new hires, allocation calculations, and what-if scenarios. So, for example, what happens if the one of the health insurance plans goes up 6% this year and 10% next year? Or what happens if the police get a 4% overtime increase, kind of, or the retirement formula changes? Being able to make changes to hiring timelines, different assumptions, and it'll update the budget instantly instead of requiring manual recalculations across multiple spreadsheets. The next one is capital budgeting. This module will standardize the capital request and review process. Departments will be able to submit projects directly into the system, and leadership will be able to evaluate priorities, funding scenarios, timelines, and multi-year capital planning options. Given Sister Bay's active capital environment, this was one area that seemed particularly relevant during our discussions. And then the digital budget book converts the annual budget into a modern, public-facing digital budget book. So instead of manually formatting a large PDF document every year, the system will automatically create both a web version, a mobile version, and a PDF version of your budget. It also makes budget information easier for both board members and residents to navigate and understand. So I actually have this Whitefish Bay example that I just wanted to kind of show you. Can y'all see Village of Whitefish Bay here? Okay, so this is the digital budget book. So you can see from a resident's point of view, if I'm looking for specific information, I can just hover over the different sections here and click on, whatever page I'm looking for. And then as I scroll down, I can see kind of charts and graphs that are created automatically that allow me to kind of hover over and see more information about, different revenues and expenditure details. So I can see kind of revenue broken down by source, expenditures by fund, function, and expense type. So it just allows residents to see a more understandable, kind of comprehensive budget document. In both, this is the digital version, but also it'll create a PDF as well. So if you can still have like the PDF that'll be created automatically that you can print or have have on your website, but this digital version will just kind of allow Sister Bay to kind of be more transparent in terms of the budget and just provide a more understandable budget document that is without requiring the staff to spend hours and hours and hours creating it. The next piece, the last one I wanted to talk about, is this financial engagement piece. This is a website that attaches to your site that allows it creates a public-facing transparency and communication platform that can be rolled out gradually over time. So that includes budget versus actual reporting, project updates, surveys, resident communication, and AI-powered financial search tools. So to give you an example, this is the Rochester Hills financial engagement website, but it allows residents to see budget versus actuals for revenues and expenditures in whatever level of detail you want. It'll also create this AI kind of chatbot where residents can ask questions. So for example, if you wanted to see, let's put in, how does this year's police budget compare to last year? So it'll analyze your budget versus actuals and your budget book to give you a breakdown of how the budget compares, and then it'll take all of that information. There's like an analytics piece that will tell you how many people are visiting the site, what questions are they asking, are the questions about certain topics. So again, it just kind of adds a layer of transparency to your financials. But this Rochester Hills is a good example because it allows you to, you can talk about different capital improvement projects. People can click into different parts of your budget and see kind of updates. You can also set up different surveys so people can ask questions, and you can again kind of see how people are answering and answer questions as well. And yeah, so the kind of main event here, this is the pricing piece. So I wanted to provide kind of two different implementation approaches for consideration. The first one, this option one, focuses on the core annual budgeting process through two of the modules we looked at, which is the operational budgeting and personnel budgeting piece. So this would allow the team to get out of spreadsheets, use a more kind of secure, that's the word I was looking for before, secure way of handling the budget, allow them to do those different what if scenarios, and it would include a one-time setup fee of $9,724, and then an annual subscription of $16,650. And this would really kind of focus on efficiency and reducing spreadsheet dependency. And then option two is kind of the expanded planning and budgeting package. So this would include three other modules: the capital budgeting, the digital budget book, and the financial engagement piece. So this would really, whereas the option one focuses on the internal process and making it faster and more efficient to make decisions and to collect requests and go through the review process, option two adds those financial transparency pieces, and will allow you to really modernize the entire process, both internally and externally. One thing worth noting that's different from when they spoke to you kind of a couple of weeks ago is that this expanded process for the same price as before now includes two other tools. So it's 5 tools total, including capital budgeting, digital budget book, and the financial engagement piece. So I would say it's more cost effective because again, it gives you kind of three more products. And just based on the discussions we've had around monetization, committee visibility, capital planning, and public communication, that expanded package is the option we generally would recommend long term. That said, both approaches, are great, and additional modules can always be kind of phased in over time. And in terms of those costs, this is kind of what's included in that annual cost. So it includes the onboarding, it's unlimited users, unlimited training, unlimited customer service. Includes the unlimited support, cloud hosting, software updates, security, customer success support. The goal is to provide long-term operational support without requiring significant additional IT resources internally. And so, yeah, kind of the timing discussion really comes down to operational sustainability. The earlier implementation begins, the more runway that staff has before the FY 2027 budget cycle becomes active. Kind of a phased rollout approach also allows Sister Bay to modernize processes gradually without disrupting current operations. So what that could look like is a finalized kind of a kickoff in June or July of 2026. So onboarding this summer, workflow configuration in late summer, and then in active use during the FY 27 budget development cycle. The long-term goal would be to create a more sustainable budget planning and public communication framework over time. So that's kind of that's the slides I had. Happy to answer any other questions.
I think when I look at this and she did a good job of emphasizing the points, there's two areas where I really like the advantages. I think we've seen a lot of volatility around spreadsheets and errors that require a lot of redo work. So I think if we can improve the quality of our data, that will drive some productivity. Overtime hours or just your ability to get your job done as a financial staff. So I like that a lot. And then the second piece that I probably need to understand a little more, but community transparency. Our website's not great right now, and it is difficult sometimes to find things. So if this plays a role in simplifying the process, because AI helps do the search and links you to data that's coming right out of our financial systems, but presented in a user-friendly way. To me, that's a big deal. Those are what I think is the two most positive points.
I had a question. So on the $24,000 annual subscription, can you just kind of give me an idea? How'd you come up with that? How do you guys come up with that number?
Yeah, so it's based on budget size and kind of product mix. So we have different tiers of pricing depending on the budget size of the community.
So if our budget size is gonna stay approximately the same, give or take. I guess then what you just said is that $24,000 figure would hold as long as the budget is pretty much the same every time.
Well, whatever you kind of whatever we call them tiers, but whatever the contract that you sign, you're locked into that, that pricing. So even if your budget went up a bunch, the pricing would stay the same no matter what. So the pricing won't change if your budget size changes. It'll
Sorry, I thought that's what you
because
said about the budget size.
it's
Do you offer more than a one-year contract?
Yeah, people can sign up. People typically sign up for a 3-year or a 5-year contract. But it's up to you. You could also just sign up for a 1-year contract. The reason people like to sign up for a 3-year or 5-year because it locks in the cost for longer. And like I said, the cost will stay the same. It's an annual fee. So if you decided after 1 year or 2 years that you didn't want to move forward, you can always cancel without penalty.
So we could lock in for 3 years. After 1 year, we say no. And
Yep.
there's no penalty.
Yep.
Can I add something? Christine, I'm just gonna recall our conversation. Remember when we talked, I said, hey, Cassell, the in development process for the budget book for personnel capital improvement planning. So technically, I'm looking at this as computer. When it was built, it was expensive, but down the road, it got simplified. It got the cost of production got cheaper. So referring back to ClearGov, as your competitors gonna build all of those products that you have, you told me that we can renegotiate the price down the road because they are our main ERP.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we're always open to those conversations.
And their products right now so much cheaper. Their budget operational function is at 1,800 per year in comparison to several thousand from you guys. So anyway, just want to make sure everyone heard about that. When the time comes, Cassell can offer something, we can sit down, renegotiate, and maybe go with Cassell, whatever works best for the village financially.
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. Yeah, y'all, it's your I completely understand it's your job and responsibility to do what's best, for the village. So that's why we have kind of contracts in place that allow you to, if you decide that you want to move away, we make it easy to do that.
Christine, hi, my name is Louise Housen. I'm the chair of personnel and, and budgeting for personnel, and then you reference it in one of your slides, can be challenging. Could you explain in terms of, let's say that we've transitioned. No, actually, can you explain what best practices are to transition to the personnel budgeting module with ClearGov? Like what does, because I think that probably some municipalities or some of your customers transition better than others, usually. And then once transitioned, what are the elements of successful, efficient managing of the module? And what are those elements? What are for a really good transition, a successful transition, and then an ongoing managing of the system?
Yeah, it's a great question. So I'd say the biggest piece is that personnel budgeting takes a little more time than the other modules up front, because the first thing we do, and we help you do this, is we set up all the rules that power the village's personnel plan. So this is like your groups of employees and how they're paid. Do you have some employees that are paid hourly versus salary, or merit versus tenure based, the different steps, the different benefits. So that piece, the biggest indicator of someone being happy or unhappy is if they take the time at the beginning, if they set up enough time to properly set that up. Because if it's a, let's say it's kind of an afterthought and they don't, and they're already, like they already are into their budget process before making sure that that is all set up correctly, then it can lead to issues down the road because maybe you forgot about this one benefit, or you forgot to make this make this change to a wage schedule. So really taking the time to learn about that module and getting all the training you need before you get busy with the budget process, that's what will set you up for success the most. So we will, again, our training is all inclusive. So we will do one-on-one training with you and help you kind of step by step set up all those kind of rules. We also have an LMS system, like a learning management system that has like videos and articles and stuff that you can read on your own. But again, I would just make sure that you set aside. I would recommend for Sister Bay probably setting aside like 3 or 4 hours of probably 2 hours of training, and then 2 to 3 hours to set everything up and validate it. And that's how you can be most successful with the personnel budgeting tool. People who aren't successful usually just they don't put that initial time into it, and then they get busy and they can't do it. So they end up like using spreadsheets for their personnel budget, and which again is kind of the whole reason why you want to use this. So I would say just setting aside enough time when you have time to kind of do the training and validate all the information.
Okay. Understood. All right. And the training that you do, is it remote? Is it in person, or is it a hybrid?
It's mostly remote. Yep. So it's just over Zoom.
Okay. And then can I ask the same question in terms of success with transitioning and then managing the capital, the SIP piece of it?
The capital piece, it's more it's more streamlined. I mean, the big piece with the capital is just setting up the forms at the beginning. So making sure that you're collecting all the information you need, because once you start your budget process and department and people start filling out the forms, if you forgot to ask them a question, it can be kind of complicated to try to like add a question to the form, resend it, get it back. So really just making sure that you're asking all the questions that you need to at the beginning. But the capital budgeting is pretty straightforward. So as long as and we have these forms, the forms that the department heads will fill out, a lot of them are pre-populated. So it's really just going through the forms, making sure you're asking all the questions you need to ask. And then, again, when it's time for department heads to start submitting requests, we will do a separate training for department heads. So we will walk them through filling out a form and how to do it. It's very simple, but yeah, so just with capital, it's really just making sure that you're collecting all the information you need to collect at the beginning.
Okay. And then just one last question. Is there a limit on the number of users?
Nope, unlimited users. And the unlimited training also, so like if department heads, if you have additional department heads that join, which I'm sure you will, a new department head joins in 6 months or a year, we are always, we always are happy to train them one-on-one or actually every year we actually recommend doing a department head training anyway, before the budget process starts, but we're happy to do kind of one-on-one training as well.
Who are typically the heaviest users of these programs?
Well, the finance
within an organization.
The finance team. Yeah, the finance team will be the biggest users. The finance team will be the biggest. Kind of secondarily will probably be either department heads or the finance committee, depending how involved the finance committee wants to be kind of in the software. Some finance committees like being like actually in the software, some just like being just kind of reading the reports from the software. It just kind of depends on what level of involvement. But the finance team will definitely spend the most time and they'll see the most time savings as well.
So just to clarify, the users, there's also different tiers of users
Yep.
as well. So when we're talking about it in our instance, it would be, Vlad and I, that'd be the primary users, things would be sent out. The department heads would be on a different tier where they send out the personnel budgeting and their capital improvement planning. It comes back, it incorporates in. And then there'd be another tier in terms of the finance committee, or another viewers, recommenders, things like that.
What about Julie and Sarah?
So they'd be in the same tier in terms of department heads they have their own, budgeting for office things and things that'd be associated with their position
Okay,
that go into the personal budget.
okay, so that, okay.
Andy, you've been kind of quiet. I'm kind of curious, based on your background, if you have any comments.
I think it's all pretty straightforward. And I think the question I have is I was looking through like the, I guess what would be covered in the implementation. Do you help with data migration and from the legacy system that we'll be migrating off of into the new platform? Because I think that's where, I think there could be a significant amount of work from a time standpoint to move on to a new platform. Is that something you guys assist with?
Yep. So we do all the data onboarding. So really when you sign up, the Vlad will probably send the reports we need from Cassell, and then we will upload everything into ClearGov, build out the chart of accounts, and then probably like once a week during the first few weeks, the data team will have a call with Vlad and he'll just validate that this, everything is in the right place and looks correct. And then if anything changes with Cassell, you move to a new version, or even if you changed ERPs entirely, because our pricing is all inclusive, we'll make any changes that you make. So whatever changes that you end up making in the future, we will accommodate that.
And do you find pretty high adoption rates from department heads and other, users that start, interacting with the platform?
The department head workflow is extremely simple, and we did that on purpose because we know that not all department heads have the same kind of level
Technical
of comfort with
background,
technology.
right?
With technology. So we made it extremely simple. It even really looks very kind of like spreadsheet looky because we wanted to make that transition very easy. So yeah, the department head view, it's very simple. They can't see what they don't need to see. They can't see what other people have submitted. But yeah, we've really built all the tools with that focus of a department head needing to submit requests, because that's kind of the first thing that the first problem we wanted to solve was that department head submission process.
All right. Yeah, I could see value in that. From a time standpoint, if they're able to adopt the new platform easily, and it's not a massive shift for them. So, okay. Yeah, that's it's interesting. That's basically all I had from a question standpoint.
So do we know how many year contract we're pursuing and what the procurement rules are in terms of the number of competitive quotes we have to get for this type of thing?
So this would be for a professional service. It would be below the threshold. And what was recommended would be the 3-year, but it could be negotiable. There is a service order that is included as part of the packet that could be recommended, but we also could discuss some variable terms as well.
So is it the total value that we use to figure out how many competitive quotes we have to have?
Well, we can do, so it would be for professional services non-related to potentially seeking any funding. We don't need any professional services. We do need to have it. If it's not budgeted, it does need to be approved by the village board.
But we wouldn't have to have competitive bids
We would not.
Under $25,000.
for 1 year though, but 3
Right.
years.
So in the,
Yeah.
I mean, in the future, it also this is not considered a, public works project.
But you said
Okay.
it's under the threshold. What's the threshold?
So if we're looking at it in terms of the general public works threshold, it's $25,000.
Is that how we're supposed to look at it?
It's not, we don't have to, we can go competitive, we've already looked at some other alternatives.
Okay,
But in terms of what our procurement policy is, which would be what we need to review, it would need to be, approved by the village board, and then the values would be incorporated into the operating budget for each year. In terms of what's currently proposed, it's that there would be the initial fee within 2026, which would not be a budgeted item at this time. But everything else from 27 to 29, if we'd ended up going with a 3-year contract, would be incorporated into paying for it.
well, then the next question I have, having watched software like this in other segments before. I understand the implementation cost, but normally you wouldn't pay the annual subscription until the first year following the implementation. What's our assumption here?
So with the first year following implementation, I mean, it would be the
If
one.
we did this, pretend we did this today,
Yeah,
I would assume that between now and the end of the year, we would be responsible for any startup and implementation costs that were quoted. But the license, the subscription fee wouldn't come until the following year.
correct. We'd be using it as part of the 27 budget. So we wouldn't be using this software this year to create the budget unless we paid for it for this year, which would really just be a partial, partial year. But the intention would be to have everything be set up for 27, so that in terms of the management, that would be covered initially, and then we'd be using it for creating the 28.
So,
budget cycle.
so if we did this, the full new deal. Right now, we'd be committing to I can't remember the number, the $9,000 implementation cost. That would be the out of budget, or 12, that would be, so it would be $12,000 not budgeted
For option 2.
for option 2.
Okay, so in the recommended next steps, though, it says begin using ClearGov for the fiscal year 2027 budget development process. So you're saying well, I mean, sorry, so we're
So,
paying for the
a quick
implement,
question. Can I
wait,
just
one
ask-
sec.
Do we still need her?
Yes, I'm gonna ask her, sorry, and I have a follow-up question that I
Alright.
need to ask her. Kristen, if we pay the implementation costs this year, can we use the software to do the 2027 budget, and then we start paying our annual subscription beginning January 1st, 2027?
So typically if you're hold on, let me go back to this because I want to make sure I'm saying these dates right. So yeah, the FY 27 budget process for y'all usually does it usually start in January, or does it start in?
Starts in the fall of this, so this fall,
Right.
we start.
Right,
really
so-
it has
so
to be
we t-
approved by November, so.
So
yeah,
we talked about doing a pro rata period. So in the next, between now and January, I think this is in the service order, but I don't have the service order right in front of me, but
You got it
you would-
July 1st.
right, so it would be a July through January pro rata period, and then you also pay the implementation fee. So the annual cost would be the full 24,000 would start in January 2027.
That's what's on here.
Right, but what would we be paying this year total if we're doing a pro rata?
It'd be the one-time 12,000, and then the pro rata amount, and I'm sorry, I don't have the service order in front of me, which I think was probably around 12,000 something, but there should be on the service order, it should show a July 1. It actually breaks down the amounts and when they're due.
What page is that?
24.
Well, July 1st, 2026 says 24,939.68.
Right,
So
so that's 6 months so that's basically half of 24,000. So that's the pro rata annual cost, and then the one-time setup fee.
So is that negotiable? Because that seems heavily loaded to the front end. We're in June. we have to have our budget approved in November, it would seem like we're gonna incur the implementation costs, and that may take you, I don't know how long it'll take you, but I get we're paying that. I guess we're paying it up front based on your schedule, right? We're paying you
Correct.
before you do anything.
Correct. And that's pretty typical for software.
Hmm, there's not that much typical in software, I find, in terms of negotiations. But I get that. It's the prorated subscription cost that seems high that we would incur in 26.
Because you'd be using the software in 26. So, you would have
What?
department heads would be submitting requests.
For 2 months? Or I thought I thought we didn't pay for it while we're training.
So when we were initially discussing this, I think even before coming on board, the intention was to have everything be set up in late 2026 so that it would then be ready for having the management process in 27, but using it for the following year's budget development.
Okay. So typically how we do it is when the pro rata amount starts when your subscription starts. So because you can start training on day one, that's when that pro rata annual cost starts. What I can do is I can actually push the setup cost to January. So if you wanted a lower amount in 2026, you could just pay the pro rata cost, which is 12,000 something in 2026, and then we could push the one-time setup to January 1, 2027. So that's something that we can do to help bring the cost down for 2026.
Would that still allow, I mean, I don't know that that's our best option, but would that still allow us to do the setup this fall?
Yep. Yeah. Everything else would stay the same. The implementation, everything would stay the same. We would just push it to January to help y'all, pay for it.
Budget for that. So I just have a couple of quick questions, Kristen, and then if nobody has anything else, we'll not take more of your time and then we'll kind of discuss amongst ourselves. But I love the financial engagement page. Who manages that?
So we host it, but you manage it. So you decide who wants to, typically the finance team will manage it, but you can decide who on your team you want to manage it. Let me go back here. So you can decide kind of who is setting up the surveys. If someone asks a question, you will set up the process by which that question is, someone asks a question, someone on your team will get an email saying, so-and-so asked a question. So y'all can decide if you want to answer that question in public or in private, or, if you want it posted to the website. So typically there's one person or maybe one or two people on your team that are, kind of managing it or have access to the back end and can see and make changes and see analytics.
Okay.
But it's up to you who you want that to be on your team.
Vlad and I did go through most of these modules as well, just to show what can occur with it. So essentially there's standardized templates in terms of what can be communicated. So everything updates, it has a feedback loop. When you update it or include a field, it can just be a standard display of that information. In terms of these special things, yeah, it'll probably be a combination of Vlad and I and Sarah sending things out if that's like an initiative for public engagement.
Okay.
Can you ask?
Oh, yeah.
Since Christine mentioned about prorated approaches, I think financially would make the most sense for the village of Sister Bay implement ClearGov programming during the March of April of 2027. Therefore, we would be able to get $6,000 discount, again, based on your prorating approaches. And starting from April 1st, 2027, we can kick in training, we can, all this setup. Usually for the village financial side, that's the slowest time. And it will make sense start training during that time. Because the next 3 months going to be preparation for the budget that we can set things up. You're still going to remember everything clearly, Because by the time you finish your training in the fall, the April comes, you will forget. So, I mean, that's just how it works.
So it sounds like you're saying your concern would be trying to do this now as we're getting into the early phases of the budget process might be disruptive.
As of right now, I think it would be waste financially, to be honest. So you will pay for prorated 6 months of programming, so it's like $12,000.
Mhm.
Yes, you will start training, but you're still gonna pay for that training later, so it adds on. So the $12,000 is gonna be a waste financial.
Mhm.
If you start in April, potentially we can save $6,000. Because again, she said there's a prorated situation. As long whatever Christine said can be worked out.
I mean, yeah, it's up.
Oh, sorry, I was, go ahead, Kristen, and then if anybody else has questions for Kristen, we'll ask those, and then we'll let you go, and we'll kind of discuss those different scenarios amongst
Yeah,
us.
so I was just gonna say it's, there's no pressure from me in terms of when y'all want to start. The only thing to keep in mind is that it does take our team time to get an account set up, especially I although it might be I totally understand wanting to push it as long as possible so that you're like quote unquote kind of like saving money on the kind of any prorated amount, but I just would hesitate to start too late because you just want to make sure that things might happen, staffing changes might happen, and again, it takes our team 3 to 4 months to get an account set up. So even if you are, I would personally recommend a January 1 start date so that so that you have plenty of time to get everything set up and then do department head training typically happens right before they start, they're about to make their requests. So we can do that. You can do finance team training, or typically what I would do is finance team training much earlier than that. And then when it's time for department heads to start submitting requests, then you do a training for them. I would just, again, kind of recommend I wouldn't wait, even 3 months before your budget process typically starts, because again, it's things like the personnel budgeting module, you just want to make sure you give yourself time to go through the whole implementation and training. But, obviously it's up to y'all when you would want to start.
No, that's good information. Thank you. Does anybody else have any more questions for Kristen before we start chit-chatting about it? No? Awesome. Well, thanks so much, Kristen. That was a lot of information. Thank you for that.
Yep. Thank
Thank
you
you.
so much. Yep. Y'all have a great
Thank
day.
you. Appreciate it.
Thanks.
So I know we have a lot of options here. I just want to make sure we're clear. When I was reading through this, I was under the impression that we were trying to implement this year, for 2027's budget preparation. So, but it sounds like that's not the case.
It would be pushing it. Well, first off, I'll just say in terms of a point of order. So are we good on the presentation side of things? And do we want to move into the budgeting software discussion agenda items if there is any actions taken?
But one thing I want to note is that there was supposed to be a summary of community feedback in the packet,
That was sent.
and it wasn't there, but it came over about 10 minutes after the meeting started. If everybody wants to check their emails. Your village email, there's a summary of feedback from the 4 communities that are using ClearGov.
So are we moving into, you're saying we're moving past page 21, so we should,
If we're gonna
Completely
be
moved.
having some additional discussion and there would be an action taken, and we're past the presentation portion and we're good on asking and answering any questions regarding the presentation, we can move on to the budgeting software discussion portion of the agenda.
yeah, I mean, I would think so. Do we have to do anything to move to that portion?
just for yourself as the chair, just moving forward on the agenda for Nancy.
All right, I guess we will move to 7A on the agenda, budgeting the software discussion. And so we've got all of the information that we have got from Kristen. We're starting kind of on page 22 here. And then I can let you kind of take that away, and it includes the service order, and then in your email will be the comparison that will let you kind of summarize too.
Yeah, so as part of this, there was discussion on the past meeting about this item, but a few different things regarding the contract. What was initially discussed as part of the contract was that typically it's about a 3-year contract period. It can go as high as a 5-year period. Some different changes that were discussed previously as part of the suite options were, as she discussed, that there was an expansion of the planning package. So initially, it didn't include everything that would be included as part of the services. So the last time around, they essentially had a deal where it was about 30% off what was initially anticipated. This time around, really, if you're looking at it in terms of the full services, it was estimated that it was about 40% off of what all the services are, with the additional benefit of having the additional services as part of this. And then did just send over to some feedback that was provided from different communities that were requested to provide some additional feedback. Staff contacted all the different communities that were identified as part of the previous presentation slide deck, and 4 responded. Generally, there was some different mixed feelings in terms of the use of it. Just as a general trend, it seems as though that some of the smaller communities appear to have a greater satisfaction, whereas some of the larger communities appear to have a little bit more mixed in terms of their satisfaction, and that ultimately came down to the onboarding difficulties that arose as part of the process. A lot of them did cite transparency as one of the big factors for selecting ClearGov as the preferred software here, as well as the presentation tools for the budget book. But there was definitely some different concerns that, they were paying for something that was potentially overpriced as part of this. So overall, mixed feelings, but if it's for a smaller community, less, as long as onboarding went well, communities felt that they were pretty good with it, where the larger communities had a difficult time.
Yeah, I'm just skimming through this. It
You guys-
seems like,
Committee members should read it, because it's 2 pages of comments from.
If you don't have a village email, that we did this as a
This
citizen
came
member,
over after we started the meeting today.
but it came to my,
Yeah,
Or
It came to your
the-
village,
your-
it came to your village email, yeah.
I don't have a village email.
over to your mic.
I'm sorry,
Okay.
come over to whatever email you're getting.
Okay, thanks. I
beg your pardon,
I wasn't
Yeah.
sure what you're
sorry.
right, we're gonna take a couple minutes real quick, and everybody just take a second to read through it, and I would say, obviously, in the future, this would be helpful to have beforehand.
I'm actually not seeing it in my email, so if someone could send it to me, that'd be great.
Just resent it over. I think the village emails go a little bit quicker than the other ones.
Yeah, I don't
All right.
see it either.
Thank you.
It wasn't sent to you initially? Okay.
Who is it coming from?
Be from myself here.
It's from you, Ben?
Would it be helpful if I read it out loud real quick?
I got it.
Got it? Okay.
I got it. 7:10.
Mhm. And then Julie, is there a way to include this as an addendum to the packet for anybody who's looking later?
So the only reason why it was not included was just to provide some anonymity in terms of the feedback that was provided.
Okay.
So if anyone, yeah, so in terms of, that's why it was intended to be included separately.
So we don't have this, okay.
Hmm. Yeah, that big small thing really jumps out at you.
Yeah, Oshkosh is not happy.
So it was, in terms of that specific situation, I do know what's going on with them as well, and they had some transitions as part of it. Initially, it was a previous administration that got pushed for it, and then now with some new.
In Oshkosh?
Yes.
Yeah, in
Ah.
item 3, it says onboarding predates current leadership. So current leadership did not choose it, and so you have, that can be a rub, right?
Well, there's two rubs here, right? Ewaskum and Oshkosh are a little negative as large. Cottage Grove and Clover are earlier on in the implementation too. So there, it sounds like it's big versus small, and it's how far along are you in the implementation? Are others seeing it the same way?
Can I add something?
Please.
Last year, when I started talking with ClearGov, it was Brian, a different account manager. So he's no longer with ClearGov, and I did brought up lots of concerns. So the goal was to make sure the setup of the ClearGov programming works exactly the same way the way spreadsheets work. So we want to make sure we calculate our meal rate out based on our work within the budget. So we don't want to like.
Right.
Yeah,
Does that make sense? So we want to make sure we know our meal rate before we finalize. No surprises later, no jumping around. That was the goal. Brian was very hesitant. Like, I'm not sure this is in development. Now I'm reading other municipalities, people upset for extra add-ons. So I'm just want to make sure it's not going to be extra add-on to us on top of $24,000 down the road.
Yeah.
So if you want to make sure our meal rate is clear, but then we're done with the budgeting.
So I think that's part of that would be part of the onboarding process to make sure that we have the correct fields as part of it. When they're referencing add-ons in a lot of the conversations that's there, they're saying the additional modules that are going on. So like if they didn't have the full suite, they felt as though that it wasn't necessarily effective because when we talked about this, if you just have the personnel and operating budget, but for example, you don't have the capital improvement, it doesn't feed into anything in terms of what you'd be doing, for that, for that calculation that you'd be making. But yeah, you want to make sure that when this was implemented, that any of the features that we have as part of our budget, that we'd have that incorporated in.
I mean, what's in my mind is we wouldn't want this to become an excuse for why we have to have a large levy increase because we missed something or that's what I heard you saying, Vlad.
Pretty much.
Because we've lived through that once and it was ugly. And what I also hear you saying is that as our finance professional, it's gonna take some work to make sure we have integrity of the data. And that
Personnel will
It's
take a
consistent.
while. She's not kidding. It's
yeah,
a lot.
Personnel, it's all about allocations. Make sure.
It is, and it's not that it's a moving target, and it's not like we're a small community, but it's, Vlad, it takes a lot.
I mean, the way I work with personnel spreadsheet, it's easy to have initial summaries.
Yeah.
But then divide it out
Yeah.
between accounts. That's the setup of allocations.
Right, it's tough.
so I'm sorry, I'm gonna go back to my original question. I don't know if I spaced out because I was kind of reading this at the same time. So we're not trying to do this fall, or we are?
It would be difficult to do, to get that to the point where we could incorporate this to use it for the budgeting.
Okay, just because in the, not that I'm trying to jump back on item, but at the end of that, it was saying that it would kind of start in June. We would use it this fall to implement the 2027 budget. So I was thinking in November, we would be approving like the ClearGov version of the budget, but we're saying that's not. It doesn't act, I don't really care that much either way. I'm just curious when we're trying to do this.
The way things playing out, I think we're gonna be using ClearGov in 2027 for 2028 budget.
Okay, so not this year. So spreadsheets still this year.
Yeah,
So they would be essentially putting, we would do the development using the traditional method of spreadsheets for the 4-year 27 budget. We would put that in for the data that would be available for ClearGov, and then that would be used for the management of the budget, and then it would be utilized for the development of the 28 budget.
So what's good about that is, now, if we did that, would we then, before the end of 27, be able to populate the tool and validate that our manual numbers match what's in their system
I'm
as
pretty
a
sure.
test before we go live in the following year?
I would assume so, because it would collect the data, historical data.
Mhm.
I mean, technically it should.
We could even make that part of the implementation, which, you know, I've seen that done before to validate that you have integrity in the data. So I kind of thought like you did,
Mhm.
Bridget, but as I'm hearing this explained, what caught my attention is I didn't want to pay too early for something that wasn't usable.
Right, if we're not using it for
Right.
this fall, we
So-
don't really
Right.
wanna start it this fall.
So,
Yeah.
but then I got reality when Vlad explained that it's not just paying early, it's what we have the capacity to do.
Mhm.
Right? So the good news is, if we do this, we could essentially minimize any disruption to this year's spending versus plan. Maybe to zero, maybe just some startup and implementation costs, I'm not sure. But the objective would be to use 27 as the implementation year for 28, correct?
Correct, yeah. And the other thing to keep in mind, general fund is not the only fund that's gonna be paying for programming. So it's gonna be divided out between marina, utilities, and ice rink. Whatever fund we have, is gonna pick up the portion. So. it's not
But the
really-
total's the total, right? So it's
Yeah, total is
allocated.
the total, but then it's
Okay.
allocated out, because marina is using, utility is also part of it.
Yeah,
So everything's gonna get divided out, allocated out accordingly.
Did you ask them, so say we were doing it right now, and you guys did all of your, we're saying we wanted to do training and implementation in January, February, March, April, because those are kind of slower months, right?
Mhm.
Does it matter that the actual numbers from the previous year won't come in until June? So like right now, we don't have our full audit in yet.
Mhm.
And so you would have done all of this implementation already, but without the correct numbers for the year. Does that make sense?
It does, so usually, so. The way I understand, based on conversation with Brian and Christine, they will chart the accounts to begin with.
Okay,
Then they will set up all of these accounts according to how reports are set up with Cassell, which reflects our spreadsheets. And we can definitely use the historical data, like let's say 2025, to make sure like things aligning.
and then you can just send them, can you just send them the audited numbers and be like, put these in?
Yeah.
These
yes.
are the, okay, so you don't have to like redo.
No,
Okay.
and then she did mention the update on data is like weekly, or we can sometimes like
We'll check it.
during the audit time, you can get the correct journal entries like twice a week, 3 times a week. So as you correct them, I'm pretty sure I should be able to call them and, hey, let's just update the data,
Mhm.
because it's not like simultaneous update to submit file.
But,
Yeah.
but you gotta be able to freeze that or be able to look at previous revisions, catch
Uh,
the
That
changes,
part-
right?
I don't know. I'm
Okay,
pretty
but
sure
you
it
get what
should
I'm
be-
saying, right?
Yeah,
Cause basically, I think, Bridget, if I understood your question right, once this is live, any updates will go into the system. So if we have unaudited data, that would be what would be there, just like we have unaudited data today.
Yeah.
And then when it gets updated, the lab loads it in and we get the updated version. The same thing would happen automated. My question is, are we able to look at those changes to make sure we understand them? In that if somebody makes an error in populating the data or there's a systems issue, can we catch it? Can we take a snapshot in time? And do we know what the change is? Is there some sort of revision control?
Oh, or gosh, you would
like a,
almost have to
like a
print
version of
out.
the budget, a
Mhm.
version.
Right,
I think they did mention there could be something like that. Do you remember, Ben?
I don't remember specifically, but I mean. I
we have
believe-
time to look at that.
I mean,
guess.
yes, in terms of the data validation, I don't want to say that that was something like we asked that exact question, and that's what they said, but in terms of the data, they more than likely would have the capacity if we put in a special request to do something like that.
I'm gonna disturb your meeting for just a little bit, if that's all right. I got a bunch of chairs I gotta carry in here.
Oh, you're fine. Okay, so here's gonna be the biggest question we're gonna get from people. How are we, like, how are we justifying costs? Are we able to reduce, phone time with Baird, or is that kind of something that's locked in? I mean, when you're doing your budgeting and stuff, and I'm sure over the past couple of years, if questions came up, you're probably calling Baird and, they're charging us whatever it is, and that's worth it. Would you be able to defer those to ClearGov, or are we still, I'm just trying to find ways where we can make up some cash to.
The long term. Goal, like budgeting processes. I'm not saying to fade away from bigger, as
Mhm.
far as like. That process pretty much have to be completed between house, between finance committee, obviously. Input from very. Huge plus,
Yeah,
I would say, and it's only me thinking out loud. Leave, all of the TID related issue with the very, and the influence of the budget, influence on, rate, and then the rest, work in the house. And make sure we document that process, make sure we pass it along. So. I mean, I came up right after Sasha left, was a gap in, honestly, 2025 budgeting was painful. Cause
Oh,
there was
yeah.
no, not much.
Not
To go
much.
to go off, yeah.
yeah, no, that's totally fair.
So-
6 was kind of like painful too.
So I think it's really in-house staff time, so this is an all-in-one type of service that essentially would eliminate the spreadsheets, everything would be sent out using this as part of it. It would be pretty intuitive, so no longer would we have things that would be living, on however many number of spreadsheets. It would just be, one system that would be utilized as part of it, be sent out, everyone would have access for users as part of it. And then there also would just be more of the transparency component associated with it, so. in
Oh,
terms-
transparency would be important, I would think, because we've said it many times that. It's hard to get information, our website isn't the greatest, so.
Oh, no, you have to be, I would say at least 4 or 5 different.
Yeah.
There's no way that
Yeah.
anybody that didn't know their way around the website could find the budget.
So I would think through a lot of the public. Just mentioning that might,
Yeah, it's huge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, not to mention the detail of information that's in there, because right now it's 1 page.
Mhm.
So, Bridget, I'm where you are, where I'm concerned about the justification because. In my couple of years doing this municipal government thing, we don't have a true productivity metric.
Right.
We just don't. I mean, in a business, you'd buy this out of the savings that you were gonna realize from the spend.
Mhm.
That being said, I think the point that was just made is that our pitch here has to be, look, we've kind of proven we've had some volatilities in the integrity of the data over the last few years. We think this is an investment in ensuring accuracy
Mhm.
and providing more transparency to the community. I think we have to pitch it that way. And I think it's okay to say it's probably gonna ease the burden on our staff. It might even reduce overtime over time.
Can we just get a quote of Mike's? Can we just put that at the top of the page? And whenever a question comes in, just refer to that line. That was actually really.
Yeah.
I think that's what we're gonna have. I can probably say it again if I have to, but it's recorded.
It's on recording.
So obviously the first option doesn't seem great because it seems like you need the other things to make the first two worthwhile. And it sounds like these other villages or towns or whatever are saying similar things.
Just to add a note on that as well, essentially when we're talking about it, like the operational and personnel budgeting, that's building as part of it. The capital budgeting, obviously, we're using that as a planning tool. And then the digital budget book, essentially, that's bringing it all together so that when it's presented, there is executive summaries that incorporate all of the data and put it into the actual document that would be the PDF final version. And then obviously, once that's done, the financial engagement that would put it forward to the public and also just showing it as a live document, throughout the year and answering any questions on specific portions of it. So it comes in terms of the development, the management, the presentation, the administration, the full budget cycle will really be included as part of option 2.
I don't want to go into this here, but I think in the future, we need to look at this capital budgeting piece to see if we can link it back to our TIFs, our TIDs. And link the two in a way that simplifies that process to the extent we can, even though we know we're relying on the state to give us data back at a later point in time. I won't go any deeper than that, but I think we have to look at that. Maybe there's a best practice out there. It seems like, I'm asking this, it seems like we're getting closer to thinking we need to do something here, but we have some actions we have to take before we can recommend this spend to the board. Am I looking at that the right way? Because the good news is we're not talking about something that the board would have to approve that's outside of the current plan, right? Because it looks like we're looking at this as a 27 start and a 27 cost. Is that accurate?
So if we were to revise what was presented and instead of starting in late 2026 for getting everything onboarded, but instead starting in early 2027, it essentially would be that 3-month period where we'd be getting everything uploaded. It'd be something that would be workable after that period, and then it would be something that could be viewed after that. So it could be that we review this as a contract would be potentially executed in 26, but all the expenses would start in 27.
Right, so like a
But-
January 1st start date.
Yes, unless we wanted to start in late 26 to have it be available so it's live in 27.
Which we're not hearing an endorsement for that from one of the people that would have to make it happen. Neither one of you guys are giving us an endorsement really of that.
No, it just would depend on timing of when that mandate would occur for having everything live, because we could have everything live for this current year's budget, at least for people reviewing the information and everything uploaded for early 2027, but it wouldn't be probably until after the first quarter, if not until the second quarter, where everything would probably be, workable to view what was adopted for 27.
But it seems like we've got to make sure this is getting to the board before the end of this year.
Oh, it's gotta be to the board in August.
And as part of the,
Well, we want,
it's got to be incorporated in the budget.
Yeah.
we would want this to
Yeah.
be executed so that we could,
Good point.
well, at least have the intention ideally executed so that we would have the numbers so that we know where we're budgeting from for it as part of it,
Right.
as an operational expense.
So, if I think then you would need to go back to these folks. Based on what they sent. Based on their dates they put in there with all the dollar amounts, we want to change that a bit, correct?
Yep.
And so if we're gonna change that a bit, I would expect them to keep the same pricing as outlined here, just basically changing the dates. In other words, we're kicking it out, we're pushing it out farther. I wouldn't expect to see any higher cost.
Basically what they indicated was that it shouldn't, that's, I mean, I should have them another word on
And I
that,
think
but
this
it-
in their thing there, it said, is
they-
this good till June 30th?
Yeah, I mean, like, when they
That,
say that type
that's
of,
not unusual.
Yeah,
They just
But I'm
changed it.
saying I'd like to get that nailed down, that we're not gonna think we're moving forward with this and all of a sudden, whoa, now it's 27,000.
yeah, so I mean, in terms of what they indicated, they don't necessarily have a strong preference for when they implement. I think that they have capacity, they just need to be given a heads up that it would be.
Yeah.
And then just in terms of the price, just wanted to make a note that it typically is like a 5% increase
saw
that
that
they have
increase.
per year.
Yep,
You know, the longer that you have the contract, the longer you can hold on to that. With that being said, I don't anticipate that it'd be an abnormal price jump, but after the 3 years, it could be. We'd have to have it be part of the negotiation process, to make sure that that does not occur.
Well, and technology moves so fast in 3 years, like you were saying, there could be a series of other programs out there that we could migrate to and kind of use
Mm-hmm.
as a negotiating tool.
One with Cassell, I know for a fact they working right now on budgeting book, capital and personnel. And setup time is gonna be very minimal because they don't have to reach everything, they don't have, it's just gonna be right there. It's just the educational part that's gonna be that I have to.
uh-huh.
So tell me if I'm wrong, summarizing what we've been talking about. We would like to go forward with this. We want to make sure the price doesn't go up. We want to get this to the board so that we can start getting it into the budget for next year. I mean, the board meeting is next week. If we approved it right now, we could send it to the board for next week. But we would need the contract to be updated before then with the new start dates of starting to migrate everything, starting January 1st would be like our unofficial date. And then it would take 3 or 4 months for you guys to get that set up according to what she said. And then so starting next April, May, June, when we start talking about the budgeting and stuff again, it would be ready to go. Does that sound correct? Do we want them to update the dates and send it back to finance before we send it to the board? Or do we want to send it to the board knowing that they will update their dates and keep the same pricing?
Well, the board needs to see the actual contract to approve.
Right, so I'm saying if they could update the
Yeah,
dates
right, they
today
have to.
and send it over. Or do you guys want it to come back here to check it again, or I just don't, just to keep things
Yeah,
moving.
Just depends if there's any more questions beyond that, because this is a standard template, it's pretty easy for them to modify what needs to be modified. It's with the understanding that it would be implementation starting in January 1st with no fees in 26, and that the pricing would remain the same. So it just depends if there's any additional questions or considerations before sending it to the board.
Then we also need to go over with Christie some of the concerns about add-on. We just want to make sure their operational budgeting module runs as our spreadsheets. It covers every single thing. When we go into $24,000 a year service charge, we want to make sure it
Yeah.
It does all the
completely
things.
covers
you
what we need.
So that question is a good one because it triggers another question. It seems to me if we move forward as our chairperson has suggested, it's in yours and Ben's hands. You can always come back to us and say they didn't meet our requirements or your committee's requirements, therefore we aren't going to send it to the board, right? You can do that, right? Ben?
Yeah, I mean, it would just be part of the additional recommendation. I think it'd
Okay.
be important to at least say what the outcome was, or at least say why we didn't move forward on it.
Right.
But yes, I mean, with additional context, we went through a lot of the modules and discussed a lot of things, but we can
Oh.
confirm as part of it.
All I'm saying is that we want to
There's a
go
break.
forward the way the chairperson's recommended.
Mhm.
But if you guys find something, that's, what we
Yep.
pay it for, right?
Yep, nope, I mean, if there
Okay.
was something that put the brakes on it,
Right.
obviously that would be communicated.
Okay,
And you would not send it to the board then, you would bring it back. to the-
Yeah, it would be just the general discussion item and we'd have to find.
So are you making a motion then, Bridget?
Are you guys ready for me to make a
I
motion?
have a question, because there's a lot of fine print under responsibilities, which I did not read. Do we need Randy to look at this? Or are we good with it?
I mean, in terms of the standard contract.
Okay, as
language,
long as somebody has eyes on it and reads it and knows what we're signing.
Yeah,
Well, that's why I asked the question about the data transfer and whatnot, because some of that stuff is not spelled out in there. Or I
In
should say data
addition,
transfer,
what-
data migration and whatnot, like those are pretty broad,
so I don't,
responsibilities.
Deliberately, right.
Yes,
But I don't
And
know that Randy could add a lot of
that's-
it right there anyway. Yeah, you probably
yeah,
could.
that's fairly standard
And
boilerplate
Randy-
stuff, but
the most important term is that we can back out when we want to, right? So our exposure would never be greater than, if the way I'm understanding this, so somebody correct me if I'm understanding it wrong. Our exposure is never greater than the startup cost plus the first year subscription. She said, we can exit the agreement without penalty anytime after that.
Yeah, I think it said in here that you gotta go 60 days.
Oh, that would be reasonable.
yeah, so in terms of the standard contract language, but
Okay.
yeah, if we weren't happy with it, we could bow out and we'd go
Okay.
back to spreadsheets unless we found
And
something.
yeah,
we
she
could-
said no penalty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good.
So it says here, if customers subscribing to any products that require data onboarding. And I guess this is, well, but also to your question, Vlad, the customer will provide a complete set of requested financial data files, so they're requesting the data files. It isn't necessarily us pushing it, it's what they request, right? I don't know if that plays into your question about, are they gonna look at everything? I'm not sure,
We'll have to talk
What
about
that
it.
means, okay.
Also, we wanna make sure
okay.
Cassell is not,
There's a data discovery and data review call that you and I guess Ben would attend. All stakeholders with input on how data should be mapped out should attend. So that's the discovery period, which is discovering all the stuff that you want to make sure.
the other thing, we wanna make sure Cassell is not gonna charge extra for, release of data. Because there was something with, Time Clock Plus. When we
Okay.
implemented, Cassell kind of like didn't wanna 100% cooperate,
Oh, when we initiated that, okay.
yeah. So, two things to sort out.
Well, are you guys more comfortable finding this information and bringing it back to this committee?
And then giving it to the board in July,
Yeah, I think. it
which
would
would be
better
what
to-
we'd be looking
To
at.
talk about this once again at,
Sounds like it.
At the next meeting? Okay, once you said that, now I feel like there's too many balls in the air.
Yeah.
Okay.
yeah,
Oh.
I apologize. I have to drop.
No, you're fine, thanks.
I'll get the recap. Thank you.
So it sounds like we are directing staff to go through again with a fine tooth comb, answer questions about Cassell releasing data, making sure there's no additional charge for that. To make sure that this programming will include all applicable spreadsheets that the village needs to function. And what was the third one?
So that would
Oh,
be-
updating dates, start dates.
Yes,
Okay.
And pricing.
for the
And
contract
keep it at
question.
pricing. Yeah,
I just, I don't believe this is the full contract, it's actually included as part of it, it's more of their proposal. So there, when I did ask this, they said that there would be something else to sign, when we actually. So I can see if they have something that we can have
a
us.
copy of
We
that.
definitely need that, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
Okay.
All right, so let's get an updated dates. Same pricing. Full contract, so we can kind of check through the language real quick. Let's make sure Cassell will release the data appropriately. And that we're including all village spreadsheets. And then we'll come back to the committee at the July meeting to kind of review everything. And then at that point, we could pass it along to the village board. Does that sound okay with everybody?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay. I think we were starting to put too many things on that motion.
Good call.
Okay. Then we will officially move on to 7B, Cassell proposal for utility software.
All right. So as part of this, we currently use Express Bill Pay for the village's utility billing software. It's no longer going to be supported through Cassell. So essentially, we're going to be having a proposal for the transition to the Cassell Community Connect for using the utility software here. We did include some information in an email from David just regarding what would be going on as part of that proposal. Just a few things to consider here that I put within the staff report that, again, the reason for this is that Express Bill Pay is going to be discontinued. We currently have Cassell and everything would be integrated as part of the process. And then for the monthly costs that would be associated with it, it's currently being waived for some of the startup fees. And that we do also have David present to discuss some of the different items that be associated with his email and proposal. And just before I turn it over to David, I just wanted to note that staff is also present as part of this. So Kara is responsible for utility software. She is also here to answer any questions. We did go through a few different training or learning sessions as part of this. So staff is aware of what's going on with this.
So Ben, I gotta ask this question though, because I couldn't sort this out when we were going through the packet. So what's being obsoleted by Cassell is the process that invoices us and invoices residents and collects.
Correct. It's the utility management software that is essentially what the tool that is utilized for that specific person.
So a utilities administration person is using Cassell data to determine how to send out the bills, or I'm trying to understand how much of this is automated and what are they actually stopping versus would be starting. I know we get this automated, we get a card and I think it's direct billing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Or it can be. What's stopping? Which part?
Do you want me to talk?
Yeah.
So right now I use Cassell to do all of the billing. I go through, I get the reads through Beacon, I transport everything over. Then I know how much usage you've had for sewer and water, and then I calculate the bill. So once the bill is calculated, I send the file over now to Express Bill Pay, so people can sign up for that and pay with that if they would like. So they can either pay with cash, check, Express Bill Pay, or we have the ACH direct pay through banking systems that we work with. So this is just one of the companies we use for payments. So I do all of the billing in-house myself. This is just the company that we use to pay the bill, one of the bills, if people choose to use it.
Okay.
So we're just changing over which company we're using for bill pay.
Correct.
Essentially.
One of them. You still have an option to do the ACH through your bank, but this is just, a lot of people use this for credit card payments.
Okay, Mike, did you have another question?
I think, first of all, thank you, that was helpful. Is it Cassell who does that for us today also, but they're obsoleting something, so they're proposing something new? That was another confusion I had reading the packet.
I'd be happy to.
Yeah, David.
Go ahead, David.
Sure. So here's what's going on. Express Bill Pay has been acquired by a venture capitalist firm and one of our largest competitors. And in the past, they have paid for that integration and for our programmers to maintain the integration between Cassell and Express Bill Pay. Well, the new executive management came in and said, hey, we're no longer going to financially support that connection. So currently we are paying for that connection and that support and for the programmers. And we're going to be sunsetting that piece of it here in the future. So that's a little bit of the history. It's not that Cassell's doing it, it's that Express Bill Pay has determined that they're no longer going to financially support it. So what's going to be replaced is just the express bill pay, and it's going to be replaced with Cassell's Citizen Portal, which actually is more robust and has better functionality than express bill pay in the first place. And if you want to hear what those differences are, I'd be happy to share with you real quick.
Well, just one last question, again, because this is kind of nuanced. So it's fairly limited scope. This doesn't seem like it's going to have much of an impact on our staff. It's just a different tool. Is that a fair assumption?
Yes.
So then it's going to come down to a cost decision, and we'll go through this, but
Right.
are they the only people who do this, or can we get competitive bids here?
I mean, there's only so many services that would play nice in terms of Cassell, and frankly, in terms of when we're talking about the price of what we're currently utilizing, there's not going to be much of a difference in terms of what we're doing. So, in terms of a staff recommendation, this would be the best decision right now to be moving forward. And then we also, Vlad has some opinions on a timeline as well.
Just simple explanation. Back in the days, Cassell and Express Bill Pay, it was a partnership. Now Cassell developed their own tool. So since that partnership is fading away, so they have their in-house expertise tool, so they can do the same thing what Express Bill Pay did. Anyway, so that's the simplest way to explain. If that makes
Yeah,
sense.
I mean, where I'm struggling and it's hurting my ability to help assess this is it seems like there's not a lot of value add here. It's just the payment process because our administration staff is doing all of the work to determine the bills. I think what we're talking about is the process after she communicates what the bills are to this third party, they bill and collect.
Correct.
And it would seem like lots of people do that, and the only thing we should be concerned about intuitively, I'm thinking this, I could be wrong, is getting it for the lowest cost possible.
Technically, that's the thing. They're not going to be third party anymore. It's going to be Cassell and Cassell.
It's okay.
So it will integrate better into our system. And ultimately, when we're talking about it, I mean, everything feeds back into our accounting system of when payments are made.
Okay.
So this will essentially be a better integration in terms of, receiving the utility payments.
Okay.
So does the utility department currently use Cassell to calculate their billing?
Correct.
And so then they were sending it,
Express Bill Pay to collect.
okay, so they're just staying within their same system. So it's making it easier for staff.
Supposed to be in theory.
Well, we'll rely on David to make sure it's easier for staff.
All right, well, thank you for your patience with me. I didn't really understand until everyone walked through that for me. Thank you.
Of course, yeah, no problem. So I do want to point out that not only it's not a like for like there are some definite benefits for the citizens and their experience as well as the village's employees. So things that
Does it take their water utility costs down? That's how they'll measure it.
Well, things like being able to apply for service inside the portal versus having to go in and fill out paperwork. The village can take the deposit for that inside of the portal. So it automates that process both for the citizen as well as the employee. So they'll be able to see their statements and compare year over year. There's graphs inside there that they'll be able to see. In the past, with Express Bill Pay, refunds were very difficult. Like if someone made a mistake in payment, they would actually have to go to Express to get that refund. And I was talking to another township, and they actually had someone accidentally pay their mortgage through Express and put a note in there saying, hey, this is for my mortgage. And the township called and said, hey, we can't accept this and we can't refund it. You have to call Express Bill Pay. It took them a year to get that money back. That's no longer an issue if you're with Cassell in the citizen portal. The citizen or the village's employees can actually go in and click and refund or void the transaction, and that would refund directly back to the citizen in the manner that they paid. So items like that will definitely help them. Paperless billing through both email and text message. And this actually fixes an issue with the, correct me if I'm wrong on this, Vlad, but fixes an issue that the employees are getting payments for the marina incorrectly. And we can fix that issue with this software as well.
In theory, according to what you said, it should fix those misapplied payments. So we do get in marina payments. We used to get land contract payments through express bill pay. We just got a payment in lieu of parking payments, which is like kind of like almost mortgage situation. We cannot send the money back, but how do we walk them out through all those finance tools into right accounts? Yes, we kind of like put the money in the right account. Now let's fix the general ledger side, which is like next level puzzle. So if that's the case, that's plus. That's a huge plus.
So you've gone through all of this, Ben and Vlad, and there's no downside that you're seeing at all?
No, but there is a trick. What if everything, like the whole implementation process and the application process toward the general ledger, what if it's not gonna work out as it's supposed to, and we're going to hit like the budget season, the end of the year time, and things like not reconciling the way they should? That's gonna have effect on audit. That's gonna have effect on year-end data. Again, I'm like little hesitant to do this right in the middle of the year or toward the end of the year, during like very sensitive financial times. If we can, my opinion, if we can preserve the terms, no installation fee and things like that, but install everything probably like second quarter 2027, that would be ideal. Because it pass the audit, then we have more time to fix the problems if anything is gonna come out. I did talk to Express Bill Pay. They said we don't really have to pay for them right away. There could be some slight changes, like instead of manual, instead of automatic upload of flight data, might have to do some little manual work. I don't know.
I'm sorry, who was that? Who was on the line that was answering, that does the
David,
bill payment?
Cassell Citizen Portal.
But who was, I'm so sorry. The lady that does.
That's me.
Thank you. Okay, sorry, I was like, wait. Sorry. Kara, from your end, what does a transition like this look like, and what's the best time of year for it to happen as far as you're concerned?
I talked to Vlad, and I would, rather than having to figure out a new way of doing it and then have to figure out a new way of doing it again, I would rather do it like September, October timeframe. That would be my preference. But I know he would wait. He wants to wait till after the budget. So I can do it either way. I just figured it'd be easier not having to try to learn two different things, but either one's fine.
Can I make a comment on that as well? So implementation typically takes 2 to 3 months. And with the major migration between those on Express Bill Pay coming over to Cassell, I would suggest signing up for it this month, getting the discounted, well, free implementation, because that is a one-time short-term offer. It does go away, but that doesn't mean you have to start this month. It just means tell us where you want to be for your implementation, then we'll put you in a queue and hold that spot for you rather than giving it to somebody else. So there are a few other benefits that I didn't get a chance to talk about. So right now, you don't have real-time posting. So if someone makes a payment, it doesn't show up for express bill pay till the next day because it's a manual process. With Cassell, you actually have it real time. So if they make a payment now, it updates on the citizen side, but it also updates in your ledger. So everything that you do, all payments, instantly update in the ledger where it doesn't with Express. Another really big piece is you no longer will have a holding account. So Express Bill Pay, currently your funds deposit to Express Bill Pay's holding account, and they hold it. You have to have a minimum of $25,000 in that account at all times. Otherwise, they fine you. That completely goes away. Instead of depositing into our account or Express's account, it would deposit directly into your account. So it gives you an influx of $25,000 as soon as you get rid of Express Bill Pay. And then you have better cash flow because you have the money, well, not instantly, it comes in 2 to 3 days. And then all transactions deposit in one deposit, where Express Bill Pay, some goes to that holding account, some goes to your bank account, and then your employees are spending time trying to figure out what's what and does it balance and does it match. So there are definitely mechanical benefits to Cassell's piece. And there was a question about what if this went bad? We have over 300 cities and townships and villages on Cassell's portal. It's more than 3 years old. It's not a new product. The people doing the implementation are the same people doing the implementation with all of our products. So they're going to know how to make that communicate better than anybody. And we have a dedicated support team in-house that only deals with the payments piece. So now you have one contact for all payments related issues and one contact for all your Cassell ERP issues, which is a big benefit.
So David, I mean, what I'm seeing here, and then I have a question. It looks like, so if we sign up sooner rather than later, you waive the $1,200 setup charge, but we would still have to determine the timeline for implementation. Kara and the team would have to help us with that. And then this, do you bill us monthly for this service? Do you take a percentage of the transactions? How exactly do you get paid?
It's a combination of both. So it's a combination of $100 a month that gets you the portal and all of the pieces that come with that, as well as bank bill pay. And then, of course, Visa and MasterCard and Discover and American Express, they want to get their money. So there is a percentage that is taken as well. And that is the same as what you're currently paying.
Do we charge that back to people who use credit?
Village of Sister utilities, sewer and water.
Absorbs it?
Absorbed it, and it's part of the.
Okay.
I
Then the question, David, is, so really, this is gonna have no impact on our budget. It's whether or not we can afford the disruption and the transition time. Is there a contract that we have to sign that you need us to be reviewing?
There's an agreement. Terms follow your current Cassell agreement as well. I sent it over this morning to Vlad and I think Ben. Kara, sorry, I forgot to copy that on that email. I can get it over to you. But really, it's just the pricing and very few details to go through because it follows the Cassell contract.
Thank you.
Does anyone have any, I know we're just kind of going through it, is there any objections at all to going ahead with this and letting Vlad and Kara determine the timing amongst themselves on when this happens?
No.
Is everybody fine with that?
Well, I can give them the 1,200 discount.
Yeah, and we'll let you guys
Mhm.
review the contracts, make sure everything looks good. I mean, I'm inclined to let staff handle that part. And we're just, I'm sorry.
Question.
Yeah.
David, quick question.
Yeah.
You guys in development of customer facing service, like can customer call in to citizen portal and be helped?
Sorry, I'm having a hard time hearing you.
So I'm just wondering if Cassell develop customer facing like service, as customer service that
I got it. So we currently do not have a customer-facing customer service team. If they were to call into you, you do have the ability to set them up for billing and take payment over the phone, any of those items if you needed to. We do have the ability to, we actually have an implementation team with a marketing playbook on how to help you guys get this live. And we can text everybody, and we can create an account and text everybody the account information to help with that process and make it easy for them.
So if somebody has to call in with something, do they call you, Kara?
Yeah, they do. I set a lot of people up for, a lot of people are older and they don't know how to use computers very well, or they don't want to have to do it. I have people that call monthly or quarterly, actually it would be, to make payments because they're more comfortable just coming through me. And then I go in and log in and I enter their payments for them, or I sign them up for auto pay if they're new customers.
That's not something new for you. That's something that you kind of currently do and are comfortable with.
Yep.
Okay. Great.
But David, are you planning on developing one?
There's no plan to my knowledge to do that right now.
So can customers set themselves up at all, or do I do it all?
Oh yeah, no. So they can absolutely set themselves up just by going to your website and clicking on make a payment. We also can send out that text message I was talking about. We'll already have set up an account for them. We text them with a link. All they have to do is click the link, create a password, and they have an account.
Do you email them like I always send the bill file over to Express right now and they send out an email? Do you do that?
We do, as well as you have the option of sending it by text.
So just because we are on a bit of a time crunch, does anyone have any hesitation if I'm making a motion to approve this today?
No,
Right,
no objection from me.
Go ahead and make a motion to approve the Cassell proposal for utility software. Recognizing that we will let staff determine what timing works best amongst themselves for this rollout.
Great, thank you.
Oh, does Mike need to have heard that motion?
I just wanted to make sure he was hearing it.
Okay, Mike, there's a motion on the table that needs to be seconded to approve the proposal for the utility software consistent with Cassell, with the thought that staff will determine amongst themselves when they're most comfortable rolling that out. So there was a motion by White, second by Laskowitz. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those in favor?
Yeah,
Aye.
Opposed?
sorry.
Motion carried. Thank you so much, you guys.
Thank you. Appreciate your time.
Thank you. Julie, I have a point of order question. How many people do we need to maintain a quorum? Because
You're in
Andy-
committee of 5, so 3.
so 1, 2, 3, we would be fine. He
Okay.
has a library.
I got
meeting
the
at
library
1.
thing.
You've got the what?
Library
Library.
meeting at 1.
Oh, yeah, very good.
Okay, so we're still okay.
Yeah.
All right,
Oh,
we
I'd
will
rather-
go through the next items fairly quickly. Early but quickly. Okay, moving on to 7C, 2025 budget year end to actuals. I assume everybody had a chance to read through that, and thank you so much for the summary. That was incredible.
So Terry, before you go, just one question I wanted to hear here.
Yeah,
If somebody can explain to me, so we show on page 31 of the packet that we had a positive or an operating surplus, unaudited, subject to change,
259.
259, but later we show that the debt service replenishment totaling 337,000 was not processed.
It was processed, but it was processed reimbursement from DIP into different debt service fund.
which is what it's supposed to be used for, right?
Correct. I mean, depends.
Okay,
The project like in TID fund, the debt service paid for, and now in TID fund reimburses back. So same thing, there were project in capital improvement fund that got paid for TID purposes, but
Okay.
now it's getting reimbursed. So what I'm mentioning, remember that pro forma that Adam shared back in the days, how TID paying back. So that's part of that.
so Terry, just so you can think of this on your way out, on page 34, we show the total expenditure variance is almost $600,000, right? But we report it as 259, and that's what I'm trying to get an understanding of. What the difference is between those two numbers, and it looks like we have some decisions to be made about how we allocate expenditures related to the TID. Is that accurate?
Not necessarily. You don't have
Okay.
to make any decision. I'm just like informing you what happened.
Thanks, Terry. Thanks for listening. Those are big numbers I wanted you to at least know.
The variance is 587,266.57. It's between actual expenditures versus the budgeted.
Okay,
Actually, we spent less than was budgeted. And the variance is 587.
okay,
It's just a number to keep in mind. So for the next budget.
Right.
We budgeted that much, but we actually used this much.
right,
But then, the revenue side also was budgeted at a certain point, but we received less. So therefore, according to preliminary, we had 259,674.50 in surplus. That number have changed since last week. So now it's only 40,000 plus in surplus.
So as more of the audit numbers come in.
Yes, I did point out to CLA team, hey, throughout the year, the transfer to debt service did not happen. Did you miss, or did it was intentional, or like, please explain. And I talked with Amber this morning. She's like, no, those needs to be recorded. So instead of now looking at the page 34. Now 319,172 is recorded, so that they're not going to be more favorable. There will be a 0. So with that in mind, once that transfer was recorded, we actually went down from a surplus into deficit. And there was $57,000 plus of deficit. So I called back Amber again, like, listen, let's take a look in the TID fund balance. So what do we have there? How can we fix this deficit? Reality deficit, not a bad thing either.
right,
So as long as it's in proper variance. So we looked into TID number 1, the fund balance after all the transfers to debt service, transfer to capital improvement plan fund, and transfer to general fund, which is supposed to be 290, but it was only 145. So bottom line, quoting Amber, like flat, we need to keep at least enough to cover the debt obligation from TID. So at that moment, there was $1,965,000. The fund of the TID said debt obligation is $1,865,000. So it gives us $100,000 wiggle room. So that $100,000 can be transferred into general fund, which is perfect. We did transfer through the journal entries. We did transfer the $100,000, and that's why we right now surplus only 40.
Okay, so it was 60 under.
Was 60 under.
You put in
57.
100 and now we're 40 over,
Now we're 40 over.
when all is said and done. Okay.
and again, this is the magic that happens. Is this determination of how much debt service we end up covering with the TID revenue, right? So the auditor is telling us that $100,000 swing still leaves us in a good position in terms of the TID.
Correct.
And it was a TID 2,
No, number one.
TID 1, okay. And that was
No
all
longer-
just TID 1,
Correct.
Yes,
Okay.
which no longer has any other expenditure.
right, so that's really good.
Yes,
So we don't know any more debt in TID 1.
we could not put any more if we wanted to. It's only the.
Yeah, because
existing
we're in the
debt.
last 5 years, right?
Yes,
Okay, so TID 1 is paid off
Not
basically.
yet, no.
Okay,
So
sorry.
go ahead.
I think the best way to put it is that there's long-term obligations that are still applied to it, but
okay.
it's doing well. And we're meeting those obligations with excess.
And the tax revenue we're bringing in TID 1 will easily pay off its debt service over the next 5 years of the life of the TID.
I mean, yes, but that's also what it's, I would frame it in a way that that's what it's projected. Like it's not gonna go lower in terms of the amount of money that it's collecting.
Right,
And we're also not putting any more
debt on it.
debt onto it, so.
It might gonna go lower due to the determination of mill rate. So,
Oh.
yeah, so the projected goal is to make sure TID number one covers all of the debt, all of the reimbursements, pays off all of the funds, and breaks pretty much even at the end of its lifetime.
Mhm.
Right.
Life cycle.
And we're tracking to do that.
Yeah, group effort between Baird, CLA
Yeah.
and us, we're doing that.
Okay. So at
We
this
just had a
point,
call last, like we were
Yeah,
on a
that-
call last week that we were discussing, some of these different things in terms of the TID reporting and, like we're monitoring it as well.
so at this moment in time, there's no expectation that we would extend that TID by an additional 5 years, correct?
Not unless it was distressed, which it's not.
Which it's not, okay. All right, so
There is an option
that was really
for
helpful,
a
thank you.
housing extension. But.
Pardon me?
There is the option for the housing extension.
In TID 1,
Yes, there is the 1 year, affordable housing extension.
Oh, you could, but we're saying there's
Yeah.
probably not a location. for
No,
that to
yes.
happen.
oh, yeah,
Same.
okay, yeah, I remember that discussion.
Yeah.
Thanks, Ben. Okay,
I don't wanna, I mean, we can go through whatever everyone wants to go through. I hate to go too in detail, A, before we get the final numbers in, and B, because we're down 2 members who are also fairly
Right.
knowledgeable on this, so. If there are any major questions that anybody has, feel
I-
free to ask any of them.
I would have felt better if we were over by a little bit more, but $60,000 positive on what we expected to be a lean budget. I mean, it looks like we've performed pretty well. When you look through the specific accounts, some of these accounts are. We need to understand a little bit better, just to make sure that we can keep them at their lower level for 27, or if they were up. Do they really need to continue to be up? I mean, that's all that I would want to make sure of. And then the other piece of this, as I did open the link, which was attached to the capital projects, which the operating budget would only fill the debt expense from that, I'm assuming, correct?
I'm sorry, said it again?
The capital project, our capital plan, it's only the debt expense that shows up in the operating budget, am I correct in saying that? Or do we have? Because the funding of the capital projects typically would be either from cash or bonding, right? So in the operating budget, it's just debt expense,
It depends though,
okay?
There is a transfer to capital piece that's to compensate what's not enough. So usually when we're going through CAP for the year, there are various sources of income, interest and investments, or they can be bonding
Yeah.
or grant. And from the bottom side, we putting everything against the expended expenses.
Okay,
So then we're figuring out what we short of. That short, it depends if it was previously planned. It can come up from fund balance of capital improvement plan, or if it's a new project that needs to happen like that year, no deviation, no questions asked. then general fund picks up.
Yeah,
So when whatever portion the general fund picks up, general fund transfers that into capital improvement plan, and that's on the budget.
okay. So two more questions related to that. Number one, this transfer to the debt service on page 34, its actual was 319, right? And here you show the actual as 0,
Correct, yeah.
but it actually will be 319, or no, it'll be 319 minus 100,000, correct?
No, it's gonna be
319.
319, and the $100,000 is gonna be added to transfer from TID back to general fund. So instead of 145, it's gonna be 245.
Okay, okay,
That 100 grand is like covering the shortfall.
got it.
Yeah.
And then, okay, I guess I'm okay then.
So do we, and I know these aren't the total numbers. When we are doing the budget for this year, obviously there are certain expenditures within the village that came in way under the budget, and that's yay, that's great, we spent less money. But that savings ended up making up for a loss of revenue that we thought was coming in. Is that something that we're able to kind of predict, or was it a one-off year?
Some of the revenues can be definitely predicted. Let's say, let's just take a look.
But I thought the revenue was just about on the plan number.
You said the revenues that came in were under. And the
Yes.
spending was also under, and that difference in what we didn't spend
Yeah,
made up for what we didn't make in revenue. So one was off, so if we tighten our budget for all of these departments so much that there's almost no underspending. Say everybody gets $100,000 and everybody spends $100,000 and we're all zeros on expenses. If our revenue didn't come in as expected, like it looks like it will have been in 2025, we don't have any extra to make that up. Which is what would worry me a little bit. So as long as we think we can predict our revenues a little bit better for this next year, I just don't wanna.
well, let's stay
Well,
on,
the
I agree.
shortfall is
I-
negligible.
So if you look at the revenue, right, the revenue actual was 3,710,000.
Yeah.
The budget was 3,068,000. We were $58,000 off. The biggest source was other financing sources, and that's the TIF number, right?
Correct, and
That's $100,000 of the TIF,
yes, so then that number is going to be
60,
Different.
40. In
gonna be
favor of
different.
the village, 40,000, 42,
right?
41, whatever, and the change, so.
So we're gonna get pretty close.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's but what's worrisome is, I mean, we were $587,000 under budget in expenses.
I'm sorry.
Total expenditure.
To
variance. Well, to budget, because we don't have last year in here.
Yeah.
Well, you were just.
Plan and budget, I was using the same,
Okay,
yeah.
well, you were comparing revenue to plan as
Yep,
well.
yep, exactly.
That's huge.
But did you know, when you're doing that number, does that include the transfer to debt service that you then put in it that decreased that number significantly? Did you know that was coming though, and that's why that number was so high?
Say that again, which number?
Okay, so on page 34,
Mhm.
at the top, it says total expenditure variance under budget. So right now, it looks like we set all these budgets and the whole village was under budget by $500,000 plus.
So that number is gonna be less by $319,000.
Right, so the question is,
It's still a
Did
couple
you
hundred
kn-
grand.
right, but did we know that approximately $300,000 of debt service transfer was gonna happen?
Yes, and I addressed that it's gonna be decided on, after talking with CLH.
Right, so really that total expenditure variance under budget is very inflated, it's closer to $200,000.
Yeah.
And so we are off in our budgeting by about $200,000, not 587, which is significant, but it's not as crazy.
It's still significant.
I think it's about where you wanna be.
I think if you go too far off of that, you might swing wrong in the other direction. and you set yourself up for,
So why was recreational facilities at like 50% less than what they budgeted? So I don't think we need to get into this conversation
think-
because we'll look at it at the board level.
oh, when they do
But,
that, yeah.
cause I mean, you know, we budgeted 100 grand, we spent 51.
The
And
question is,
so-
what's the 5-year trend for those numbers? Was last year an anomaly, or is it always over budgeted and it always comes in lower? If that's the case, then it's just a lower
well,
number.
I'd love to see a spreadsheet like that, but we typically don't. So that would be great.
So all cards on deck. Before, there was like always little dipping into reserves,
Mhm.
and historical practice was to spend everything before the end of the year. And even like cheap, conservative, whatever you can call.
Love it.
So I was just like, why do we need all of this? If we didn't spend throughout the year, does this needs to be spent at the end of the year just to be spent?
Just because we have it, right?
Yeah, no, right.
It's not a good practice.
I think the
No, that's
longer
the-
we have this discipline, the more likely we are that these numbers are what we're actually spending. Right? And what we're actually spending is what we should actually be budgeting for, and we should be trying to reduce expenses where we can. And there may be some areas where we're gonna get surprised or we need to spend more money, but hopefully that's a decision that can be made with good information by the board and approved, and not a surprise.
Or is maybe some of it also things where it's from a timing standpoint, it's gonna, and I don't know, but it could move into 27. Because that's the other, not concern, but we have to budget that for 27. I don't know. But that's a big number for,
Oh, like if a project didn't happen.
well, it's a big
but
number
still
for
needs to
recreation facilities and I don't know what it could be. It's
I mean,
huge.
We can, during the budgeting time, we can drill in into.
Yeah, right, we'll
the
see it.
accounts.
I agree. This, it's maybe not the best time to have the discussion.
The other thing, just to address variances. Variances are good. To some extent. Not the amount, not the dollar figure, the percentages, so maybe. Next time I will try to present the percent, so if you concentrate on variances actual to budgeted revenue, actual to budgeted expenses. And develop somehow a mark where we need to be.
Like within a certain
Yeah,
percentage.
so not maybe 200,000, but maybe within 100 plus. On both sides, on revenue probably less. Then it's going to create some kind of totally new budgeting approach throughout the year, I mean, the next.
I think looking at both, you know, is good. We were 7% under budget. If you take the 319 in transfer to debt service out of the total expenditure variance.
Yeah, and then
Okay.
what goes in the reserve fund, if there was an actual extra, and that, I mean, you definitely wanna have a reserve fund.
That would be the other thing that in this process, we would like to see is the cash balance, right? We did that audit this last year. We said our cash balance is pretty accurate. That's what our friends from Baird told us.
Yeah, it's over $2 million and it's again subject to final audit.
And then of that $2 million, which is subject to final audit, I'd like to respect you by making sure I let you know that I heard you. But that $2 million, isn't there two components of that, unrestricted and restricted?
Correct, yeah.
And what's the difference of restricted versus unrestricted in the 2 million, roughly? Just rough. And if you don't know it, don't guess.
Usually, you want it as little unrestricted as
Right.
possible. Because then your hands are tied, you can't just like,
Then it's really rainy day.
yeah.
That's all right, Blake, don't worry about it.
Most of it's slated for upcoming projects,
Correct.
yeah,
For the project that had to happen, that didn't happen,
yeah.
but
It also could be based off of revenue source as well. So if we're
Yeah.
talking on a high level, there's probably a few different reasons for it, but essentially in terms of the outcome, it'd be, you can use it for any purpose versus, probably was collected or intended for a
Right.
specific purpose.
That was
Yeah.
really that would be nice to know,
Yeah, like, hey, this money came in, but we're saving it for the playground fund or whatever, yeah.
right?
Yeah.
That
Okay.
would be restricted essentially versus non-restricted, which means it's available.
Or another example would be something came in terms of utility revenues, it's specifically intended to cover things that would be for wastewater treatment plant improvements.
Or yeah, okay,
Or marina enterprise funds.
Got it.
that Would be there. Okay.
But I think, Vlad, what you're talking about too is creating standard operating procedures. And I don't know that we've ever had that from a budgeting process standpoint. So for instance,
Yeah.
you know, what's not allowable, but what's a standard or what's best practices, I'm sorry. And if it's 5% under or over, okay, that's what you would have to, you and Ben could work that out, but then everybody is on the level playing field, everybody knows what the rules are, everybody understands. Cause you don't, you manage a budget throughout the year. So if you're at the end of if you're in fourth quarter and you've got whatever percentage or dollars left over and you're spending it, you're not managing your budget very well. So with those parameters, but quarterly reviews are how you prevent that from happening. And I know we've talked about it, and part of it's, part of the challenge with that is the lag time in invoices and getting invoices paid or getting invoices. So I know it's a challenge, but maybe you start instituting that with supervisors and, I don't know, it's an idea.
The other part, not just I mean, right now, it's pretty much Q2 going to end soon, so we do have very current expenditure side, but we still updating the revenue just because the GASB's regulations have changed and how property taxes are recorded and divided out and allocated. So the next thing that CLA is going to help, we pre-develop allocation process, but we do want to make sure at least like everything recorded in Q1 by the end of Q1 of every year, so we know what revenues are. Because otherwise it's just like you're looking at empty accounts.
Right.
Everything just gonna be like through receivables from this point on. And then and some of the receivable accounts going to be at negative. Just because they're going to be automatic credit or future taxes to be collected, which gonna come in August. But then at least that's gonna clear up our revenue on the spending side. Not every single revenue stream, but at least the property tax one.
Yeah. Because you pay in June, yeah. Okay. Okay, well, we are excited to see the audit come through at the board meeting.
Yeah.
Yay, and then we will, do a little more deep dive on questioning at the next finance meeting, as we'll have those updated numbers. We will cruise ahead to 7D 2027 SIP and budget preliminary review and discussion. Again, we won't go too deep into it just because we're missing a few people.
So you're at 57 in the packet, right?
Yes, page 57.
So while the audit's being finalized, really, that's one of the main things that would be utilized as part of the development of the 2027 budget, to get a baseline of things. So while we're waiting for it, we did prepare a schedule that would be utilized for the implementation of the budget so that we don't have any, or we're trying to avoid any unpredictability in terms of scheduling it all out for the different activities. So really what we're looking at on page 58 is a general schedule in terms of what we'd be utilizing for staff time as well as for finance committee meetings and when some of the major milestones would be, for adoption or for the public hearing or things like that. Typically within July and August, there's a second finance committee meeting that would be utilized for, kind of a budget workshop type of purposes. Besides the regularly scheduled meeting, just wanted to see, and this might be something for a follow-up, we don't have everyone here, but in terms of getting that at least a tentative date scheduled, so Vlad and I can anticipate of when we need to get everything through for the draft budgets that would be included as part of that packet.
Oh, so in here you have it. So we have the 7-8 as our kind of placeholder right now for our next finance committee meeting, and then you're saying also towards the end of July. Between the 27th and the 31st, that first TBD.
Yes, so it'd be for July, the last week of July is when it typically was, and then the last week of August, there was another meeting as well. Both of them were workshop related.
Just to let you know, July 8th, the firehouse knitters are in here at 1 o'clock.
Okay.
The 28th?
I'm sorry, I thought you said July 8th. Did I misunderstand
Oh,
you?
No,
well, there
July
was-
8th is the date, you're right. So
We
that's.
do. That was when the yes, there was a preliminary meeting that would be on July 8th. What time was that?
1 o'clock.
And you said, is there typically something in here at 10? Well, I guess we did set that.
But just every Wednesday at 1, it's the firehouse knitters. So if you want it earlier,
Wednesday.
So Vlad, this schedule was built kind of on the historic schedule. I mean, it looks similar to last year. I can't remember every detail.
Correct. Ben and I, we met,
Okay,
we talked about, to begin with, the bottom part of the schedule, starting from August going into adoption. But then, I brought up about how, just to make sure our meetings scheduled in advance for finance.
Right, so they're on a regular basis.
Yeah, so
Agreed,
we-
yeah,
We come prepared and just knock this out.
yeah.
Yeah.
that's smart.
And does this is a little small, but I should be able to read it with my readers. Is the date in here for when we'll have isn't it an August date when we get the state Department of Revenue data on the TIFs?
Usually.
It's preliminary, but yeah, middle of August.
15, yes, Ben?
Yes, it's typically around the time when the DOR folks publish it. There can be just a little bit of deviation in the exact date, but
Okay,
I don't think that's one of those mandated, timelines. I think it is generally around the same time frame, but it's not a specific date.
So so the finance committee typically meets on the second Wednesday, or do we usually meet on the Monday? Okay.
So typically was the second Monday. It depends on the time. But in terms of the schedule, I think we can change it for July 8th. But there typically is one in the later part of the month. And then there's also a meeting in August at the later part of the month as well.
Okay. So for the July 8th one, so if we're going according to historically what the finance committee would do, would it be on the 13th? So it would be the second Monday. The only reason we did this earlier Monday is because I was gonna be gone. This month. Does
So
it-
we can do the 13th, and if we also wanted to do like the 27th. So
And yeah,
because we'll have by the 13th, essentially everything will be sent out for the CIP. And then everything would come back and there'd be a proposed schedule and that there would be an opportunity to review that. And then at the later part of the month, it would be for the CIP and for the draft budget review for a workshop. Comes back to the following meeting, the following month.
okay, and then the August date would be, let's see, the 10th. For the finance committee meeting.
So instead of the 8th, 13th, and then August 10th, right?
So I have July 13th and
Mhm.
July 27th as our 2 Mondays in July.
we're not gonna,
Well,
we're not doing the 8th.
it would be now the 13th.
That would be, so, you know, how like the board meets every third Tuesday, whatever it is, we kind of want to try to keep it consistent, so if you are trying to make a meeting and you're unaware,
So
it would
the
typically fall on that.
13th, I'm sorry, Bridget, so the 13th of July,
So
right?
July 13th,
Yep.
and then we would have our second July meeting
Um,
on July 27th, so 2 weeks from that day. So,
okay,
so July 13th and then July 27th.
Okay.
And as far as timing for everybody, did earlier work? Do we wanna go back to the 1 o'clock? What?
I could do either one.
feeling?
Either one works for me.
Earlier works better if we can.
I agree. I would tentatively try to do the 10 a.m. again unless the room's.
No, I checked all there are no, meetings and I'm gonna be booking the room,
Okay,
Thank you.
room right now.
thank you.
Thank you.
So 10 a.m. for both those dates. And then you guys in August. I'm so sorry, I am gone for 2 weeks in August. I can zoom in and do it. Or we could do it the first week of August. Which I know would only be a week after that July 27th thing. Or someone else, someone else can run the meeting here and I can zoom in. Just, it's hard for me to run it from Zoom though.
Well, let's talk about that meeting. So we will have gotten the 13th and the 27th. What do we, at that point, what would we be reviewing in August?
So in August, really what we would be, so it's essentially historically, that's how many meetings it has been to really get down into the details. It
So we would
doesn't
have kind of the
necessarily-
final worksheets from supervisors and so forth from the departments.
Yes.
Yeah, and we would have the draft of the TID data. So that would be like when we hope we're pretty close, right?
I mean, we already know, few numbers as far as the.
So are we trying to get in meetings in August and September before that September board meeting, while we do the CIP update? Or do we just need one in between there?
So there would be, so essentially, if we're looking at it in terms of this plan, is that there's gonna be some preliminary CIP information that's part of July. We're gonna be working with staff, getting everything through in terms of their budget submission. Vlad and I are gonna compile the budget
Okay,
and get everything through in terms of the end of July. Really starting off in terms of the work, if we wanna call it the budget workshops, really drilling down on a lot of the items. That's gonna be starting, in the August timeframe.
okay.
And so we'd be doing that, we'd be getting the budget, there'd be the sessions that we'd be scheduling. There'd be an opportunity for the village board to grab an update and provide additional information. A few different touch bases in between then and now. And then it really ramps up in terms of the October timeframe for getting everything through. It's recommended that, we have everything, generally by the, November timeframe to get everything through in terms of, knowing all the information.
Yeah, so I know last year we had 2 in August and none in September. So we would just have 1 in August and 1 in September, like normal.
Yes.
That's what it looks like, yeah.
As for that August TBD date. Oh gosh, I really couldn't do it in person until the 24th unless someone's willing to be the host here and I can zoom in a previous week.
Vlad, in terms of the turnaround time,
I really am kind of,
August is tough.
24th is I'm open the 24th too. I'd have a hard time any other Monday that month.
Can
So
we
that's a
do it
month
that day?
after.
What did you say that?
I was just gonna say in terms of the, so we're gonna be going through and having the preliminary discussion, within July, and then in terms of any of the finalizing the CIP and for the budget, that would occur. And finalizing is finalizing a working draft that'd be prepared for the finance committee meeting. Do you think it would be, typically it's at the end of the month, but do you think that if it was held sooner, would that necessarily?
I think we can do it end of the month in August.
Yes, so in terms of the schedule for you, what 2 weeks are you
For this.
on?
He was talking about being able to do it the 24th, right?
Yes.
That's the one day I can't do it. I can do the 25th. I can do the 25th, every other time I'm
We
doing
can't do the 25th.
nothing, but except that one day. I could do the 25th, I just can't do the 24th, I'm sorry.
If we do want to, I mean, I can always be sending out to clarify the date via email as well, or maybe you could also be setting it as part of the July meeting. And recheck back in if there's more members.
Okay.
If
I
it's
think
not,
that might be a good idea at the July 13th meeting.
Well, we've got two members who aren't here
Right.
either, so.
Let's get
if
everybody's
August is
schedule
that
and
tricky,
kickoff.
we should ask them, I guess, right? Okay.
Okay, so right now we've got July 13th, July 27th. The
Yeah.
August date is still TBD and we'll
Yeah.
check in on that on the 13th with everybody. Does
Yes,
that sound okay?
and then we have a September one, and then it keeps moving, okay?
yes, and then just to clarify in terms of the other meetings, it's in. If everything follows the schedule, we can still remain on the normal or the regularly scheduled meeting dates to have everything completed. To meet the statutory requirements for budgeting process in the state.
Okay. We will move on to, I believe, last item of the day. 7E propane for village facility. And that is on page 59.
Yeah. So this was referred from the village board meeting from last month. It essentially was requested to look into regarding the procurement of propane for village facilities. We currently use Beryl gas. Is that the pronunciation?
Yeah.
Beryl gas is part of it for the supplier. It's been our historical supplier. As part of the staff report, I did put together some historical information that we have from our vendors based on the different facilities. Really what's being requested as part of this, or what's being considered as a policy issue, is whether or not there is a need to change vendors for propane services at village facilities, and if so, would we want to use a competitive procurement process, or would we just want to directly procure with any vendors? So with the information here, did provide the historical information about what we're currently spending at the village facilities, and then if it was the direction of the finance committee to look into going with any of the other providers, essentially you get quotes on what it would be utilizing for it in terms of their rates, and bring it back to the committee if we ended up going with that route.
I think we should definitely get rate quotes.
Yeah, I mean, they're doing it now, we just got our letter from Lakes, to see what that looks like, so it's a good time to do it.
Well, it might not be. Might be better to wait until it gets a little later in the year, because right now propane's at kind of a high price, so unless they're being predictive and using market data and seasonality to quote us. Although if you're getting competitive quotes, you're gonna get the best one, you're gonna get the best number.
It's gonna be the same, yeah, pretty much, but
But
When I talked to Lake Gas,
yeah, when he was at the meeting,
and the other manager from Sturgeon Bay, so I did told them openly, don't even think about charging us for installation and removal, because village not gonna go away. I mean, you know. So he kind of
no, don't
laughed
worry,
about it,
maybe.
but I told him it's serious, because the way how much they charge me for
to get a new tank,
to put the new tank in, I'm
Yeah.
like, I'm not building new garage over there, so what's going on here?
yeah.
So anyway, he said it's possible. They can skip those fees, they can skip it.
If you get an above ground one, which I'm not sure if we allow them or not, but you get an above ground, pardon me,
We just need to be screened.
they need,
Screen-
okay.
Tanks, yeah, my whole neighborhood's above ground.
Even with it,
The-
even with paying for just the tank and not necessarily the installation of it, it's significant.
But Bridget, what I was gonna say is other property I own, if you switch, typically they'll cover the cost of the tank swap out and installation if you sign a contract with them.
So it's kind of the first step in this, is that, based on what we're seeing in terms of the numbers, is it something that we should be looking into getting, a new propane service provider? And then the second part is, once we get back with everything, we can kind of look at the apples to apples to see what they cover, whether or not there's any, those additional things that they might cover besides just the rates for it. And it depends, like I said, we can go competitive procurement, or we can also just contact them and look at it, and we don't have to. There's nothing that says we have to do a competitive procurement.
I think somebody locked in for as long as these guys have been locked in is, let's hope they haven't become too comfortable. It would seem like it's a smart thing to do. To have, at least, we've got 3 options, at least, maybe 4 or 5. I don't know who would have it's gotta be somebody that has the capacity though to service the village, right? Because we're looking at that long list, we're basically saying we're gonna go with one vendor for all of these locations, right?
I mean, ideally, yes. Is that?
Yeah, right. I mean, do
Yeah.
we own our tanks or we lease?
I believe that we own them. I don't think that they're
Oh.
part of this service charge.
Okay.
Is that
They
correct?
don't charge or?
That's what I think that it was part of like an initial, it more than likely was part of an initial fee, but when looking at the invoices, it's strictly propane. I'm not seeing anything in terms of, the leasing.
You wouldn't, but if you own them, then you can go with anybody you want. If you lease it, you're going with them.
No,
Well, that's true, but you're probably gonna pay, maybe, you're right, you're gonna pay. a
it
little.
depends.
Yeah.
It depends.
Yeah. I think that I think it might be faster to just do a direct procurement, but I don't know if it's more work, right?
It just, just with the
Maybe.
to do a direct procurement is more work.
Is it? I don't know.
No, it just would be contacting, so essentially when we're saying competitive request, it would be, a formal process that would be issued, they submit it, we solicit.
Mhm,
It's not required, but
mhm.
sometimes sharpen their pencils, otherwise we just ask them for a price, they provide a quote, we bring
Okay.
it back, we do direct procurement. We wouldn't need to select the lowest vendor if we didn't want to.
Okay. Well, I don't know, Mike, what do you think? Direct procurement or do an RFP?
I mean, this is typically a strategic sourcing type of item, so. I mean, I would want to have the village staff making the decision that lowers the village's cost to the best of their ability, so. I'm not sure if one option is better than the other, Louise, I don't know. I don't know enough about how they do it.
Just my recommendation, direct procurement, I don't think that it's necessarily gonna sharpen their pencils unnecessarily. If we can just get quotes from them, bring it back, say what's there, then ultimately they'd be proposing a contract that we
Right.
have for all village facilities.
So it's a request for proposal, they don't have to respond. I suppose they don't have to respond if we contact them directly either, but yeah. Are you in agreement? Glenn? Okay.
And we can,
I don't know what our total
Farrell.
gas bill is with Farrell, but I can look, right?
Yeah, it's in here, it's pretty big.
Yeah, it is big. Well, and these are old, well, 26 is not old, sorry, but it's spring.
Yeah, I was gonna say, it might not,
Yeah, the price,
You look at
the
25, it was 48 grand.
it only goes up until April.
Yeah, but if you take 25, it's 48 grand, and you look at, the price of propane now. So. Okay, do we need a vote?
I would just say.
we gotta wait for Bridget.
Right.
Sorry. Wait. Okay, what did we land on?
Well, I would move to, direct, to use the option to direct procurement with selected, propane providers. For the village to see what see what kind of bids we get for propane.
So to direct staff to get,
Direct staff to do direct procurement, sorry, with a selected provider. I'm not sure, but I mean, there's a list of 4 providers. One is Farrell, our existing provider. Otherwise, it's the co-op, Lakes Gas and Gas Co.
so to get competitive bids.
Through direct procurement, so we're not gonna be going for RFP, we're just gonna be reaching out, and then we'll bring back the quotes, provide just a summary of it, and we can move forward. Getting, hopefully, the most competitive service under contract. Just a note here that I think actually with our current provider, we aren't under contract. Yeah, it's just a
Yeah.
informal relationship, but it might be good to have that.
Have
to
one anyway,
secure
yeah.
a price.
Uh-huh,
That would be my recommendation.
okay,
Was that a motion? or a
Kinda.
direction?
it was a motion, yeah.
But didn't it turn out to be a direct staff or not?
Direct staff to use the direct procurement method to select a provider, to provide the committee with, quotes from propane providers so we can make a decision. Does that sound right? I guess.
So is that a motion?
Yep,
So moved.
She made the motion, you second.
I second.
By Laskowitz, all those in favor?
aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Okay. We did it, you guys, okay. 8 matters to be played on a place on a future agenda or referred to a committee. We have the TID 101 presentation, the TID overview services presentation. Those are both by Baird, I assume.
Yes.
The TID assistance policy review. That we were looking at last month and we're just kind of had updated it and it's coming back.
Based on the discussion, it was that there might be some good information based off the overview and the presentation to wait to finalize it, I suppose.
Yes, good.
And now that we have dates, will we be able to get them scheduled?
Yeah, so the reason why is that the TID overview services that they needed more time to finalize that. And so essentially it was kind of everything, throw the
Okay.
baby out with the bathwater,
Yeah.
everything. So that everything else got pushed because you wouldn't want to do the TID 101, pair it all together.
And then the 2027 SIP and budget. So for this TID 101 presentation. Is that happening at the board or here and we invite the board
It was intended to be here, notice for the board
to join us?
to join.
Okay,
A great idea.
so that, if that gets scheduled for the July 13th meeting
I did
or the
give them,
27th or whatever it is.
I did give them a heads up about our tentative schedule, and then I said it just might be a little bit dependent on time, but they're aware that we had a rolling schedule that we have been utilizing.
Okay, okay. Great. We set the next meeting already, July 13th at 10 a.m. We set the following meeting, July 27th at 10 a.m. The August meeting is up in the air still. I would just need a motion to adjourn.
Can I ask one quick question? When you talk with, Baird, can you see, because last time we talked to them, they said we had to wait for some updates from the legislature about Act 235, which is the residential tax increment district
Mhm.
legislation, because I think they were still working on the details of that.
DOR did not publish anything
They didn't.
for the implementation
All right.
handbook that they were planning on doing.
Yeah. Okay. But that could be future for, something, but would that be something that Baird would review with us as part of, well, it's not finalized.
Honestly, they'd probably touch a little bit on it and take
Anyway,
one, or I
okay.
can ask them to.
Okay.
But they might, they probably wouldn't have any more information.
No,
Until.
no, you don't have anything yet. Okay. Thanks.
Okay. I will make a motion to adjourn at 1:44 p.m.
Second.
Second by House and all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thanks, everybody.
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you, Julie, for putting that on the calendars.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Glad, thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry, I was kind of rushing through the things again.
Oh.
And because we were missing 2 people. That's why it's anybody.
Thanks, Glenn.
My 92-year-old dad up here.
Right now?
Yeah. Be here shortly, so I'm in the front.
Yeah.
You guys have a
Nice.
great day.
That's fun.
Yeah.
Since, I wish we had